What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 105 of Nintendo Noise, Flip Screen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Steven Radford.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Steve. It's a bittersweet day today here because obviously any day that you and I can get together and talk video games, a pretty good time. But we got to talk about a sad story today. One Charles Martinet, the beloved voice actor behind Mario and Luigi and, Waluigi and Wario and a bunch of characters that we'll talk about a bunch, I'm sure, is stepping down as the voice of Mario and Friends after 31 years.
I know. I cannot believe he's been doing it longer than me and you have been alive,
Yeah.
which is insane to think that one man has had the same job for longer time than I've been alive on this planet.
Especially a
Um,
voice actor, you
yeah,
know?
I know.
Like,
That's going to be pretty rare. And I don't know that he does much else outside of the Mario stuff. So I think he's done a few things, but
He
nothing
does have a lot of
crazy.
other, like, notable, credits, like, he did the voice of, like, Parallax in Skyrim, and, like, he has other stuff,
hmm
but, I mean, you gotta imagine that the Mario gig keeps him pretty busy, right? Like, I mean, because let alone, like, aside from the fact of, like, the actual work of doing it, he's a prolific, attendant of conventions and, fan events and, like, he's out there, shaking hands and, kissing Mario fans on their cute little foreheads.
Well, I mean, it sounds like he's going to continue to do that, kissing the Mario fans on their cute little foreheads, because he's moving into a new role. Yes, he's stepping back as the voice of Mario, but they've cooked up this new role of Mario ambassador. So he's going to continue. It said the statement said that with this transition, he'll be stepping back from the recording character voices for our games, but he'll continue to travel the world, sharing the joy of Mario and interacting with you all. It's been an honor working with Charles to help bring Mario to life for so many years, and we want to thank and celebrate him. Please keep an eye out for a special video message from Shigeru Miyamoto and Charles himself, which we will post at a future date.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's an interesting story, I guess, because the reactions have been kind of varied, right? I mean, obviously, no one's happy about this news, but I've seen a mix of people kind of, I think, jumping to be like, "Are they making him do this? He's the best. Why would you ever do that?" And then there are a lot of people who are just like, "Man, incredible that we got him to voice this character for 31 years in the first place," right? So eh, there are a lot of emotions wrapped up in this, I think, because like
He's beloved. He's been
he's
you've grown
Mario.
up with him. Yeah, you've grown up with him and
Yeah,
his voice.
so much of Mario's personality comes from Charles, right? Like you think about before Mario was voiced, like he didn't have the sense of personality that we ascribe to him now, right? Like there are so many lines that are now the simplest stuff, right? Like the Wahoo, right? Which is like a thing that Charles just improvised while they were working on 64. Like he didn't have a ton of direction in the voice. He developed it. It was him. And yeah, I mean, he's one of those creators, right? That like he left an indelible mark for sure. And like no matter who voices Mario afterwards or how many people do it or whatever, right? Like, you got to imagine Mario will be around for, you know, assuming the planet survives hundreds of years beyond when Charles is long since passed. And like, he'll always be the first voice of Mario. And so much,
And probably the one that everyone will imitate and copy.
yeah.
He will be the voice. It will continue to be his voice, but someone else doing it.
And even if they're not aping him, right? Like, even if they decide Mario has a new voice now, we're going to go in a different direction. Like, he's like, the we saw the Super Mario Brothers movie, right? Like even Chris Pratt doing his version of Mario, right? Like a lot of his catchphrases, the way he speaks, it's from Charles, you know? Like again,
Yeah.
what was the big voice clip that ended the trailer, right? The big trailer with him in the cart. It's he throws the shell and the wahoo, like that will always be a part of Mario, right? Like no matter what.
I know, and it's great. And I looked at the credits and all of the games he's done, and, like, you forget that it wasn't just Mario that he voiced. He did also voice Luigi and Waluigi and Wario and a bunch of other characters from the Mushroom
So
Kingdom.
I've got a list. I don't know if it's the full list, but it's here we had Mario, of course, Luigi, Wario, Waluigi, Metal Mario, Shadow Mario, Mini Mario toys, Baby Mario, Baby Luigi, Baby Wario. And then he also did enemy characters like Wart, Mouser, Triclyde, and Clawgrip.
It's insane that one person did them. And, like, they all sound so different, they're all so unique. Like, yeah, they all sound like I guess a family because the brothers are all a family, but they all do have distinctive voices and distinctive characters and
I
distinctive personalities that stem from voice acting more than anything.
Something else that I think is interesting to think about is that his voice is the same in Japanese. Like he does that like that's what Mario sounds like everywhere in the world. That's
That's gotta
Mario.
be pretty rare for a Japanese produced game.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. That the original voice actor of the character is English, or
Mm.
not English, speaks English and is an American. Yeah, totally, totally strange. And I don't know. Do you know the story of how that actually happened?
He was, wasn't he, like, at an event and he was doing, like, a 3D puppet or something of Mario?
So,
And
oh,
he,
and
like, did the voice at that event, right? And then they
I,
continued for that carrying on?
I do also just want to shout this out before we move away from the number of voices. He actually holds the Guinness Book of World Records for having performed the same character in over 100 different titles, which is more than any other video game voice actor. So there's
That's
that as well.
amazing. I don't know that anyone will ever surpass that because that's a lot of
Probably
things.
not.
Maybe Troy Baker, maybe they'll get him back to
One
do some of
character
his
100 times
character.
though. What
Okay, well,
character,
maybe we'll get, The Last of Us spin-offs and we'll
buddy?
get him back to do that.
We got a lot to go, but yeah, maybe I don't know. But yeah, so that is yeah, that is how the gig started. So the actual story of like how he came to voice Mario for Super Mario 64 like starts with those. And there is like a little bit of his story before that I think is interesting. Like about how he got into the role and everything. Um because basically he was, a struggling actor, right? He was told by a mutual friend that there was going to be this audition at a trade show where they needed people to talk like a plumber. And he went at the last minute, right? The casting directors were already packing up, and he like walked in and like politely asked, he's like, can I just read? Can I please read for this? Right? Can you give me a chance to audition? And the only direction they gave him, you're an Italian plumber from Brooklyn. That's what he got. And like according to Charles, he said originally the plan was to have like a deep raspy voice, like a very like stereotypical,
Sounds like
Italian New
Detective
York.
Pikachu. Yeah.
Yeah, right, like that kind, how we thought he would sound, right?
Yeah.
And then the voice that he ended up with was like he thought that the low gruff thing was like not kid friendly. So he wanted to make him more like playful and silly, and that's where he got the kind of like lilting, kind of like delivery, right? That we have no, it's a me, yeah. Like that was supposed to be to make it silly and soft and, like something that
Mhm.
kids would respond to. Um and then uh apparently like they had an audition tape going and he just talked until the tape ran out and he was just spitballing like just saying stuff and like like goofing around and that ended up getting him the gig where he was working at trade shows and then that was what you were talking about. So there were these video game trade shows prior to E3. The first one was in 91 when he started doing this, and they had this screen that had a 3D Mario like head in it, and it would
Mhm.
move around the screen. And the point was so that attendees could go up and have a conversation with Mario. So it was called Mario in Real Time or MERT, and they had this like hidden camera so that Charles could see the person that he was talking to and then there was a motion capture rig that would sync his mouth movements to the Mario face. so that the person could feel like they were having a real-time conversation. And he did that for a while. Um, and then the first like actual voice, because this is the funny thing, right? In Nintendo's statement that you read, they specifically say he's been the voice of Mario for a long time, as far back as Super Mario 64. But like that's not all the way back. Like it does stretch further back than that. So after the
Yeah, I guess maybe they didn't consider it an original. I don't know.
Well, they
Strange,
didn't
because
make it, right? It was a,
yeah.
the his first actual, like, in-game, quote, unquote, appearance was in a pinball machine, that was
Oh, I
made
thought it was in the typing game.
not
That it
yet,
was
not yet. Yeah, so there's a
okay.
couple games before 64. So the first one technically is Super Mario Bros. Pinball, which came out a year later in 1992,
Wow.
and, according to Charles, Gottlieb, which is a really famous pinball company, did not credit or pay him for doing Mario's voice for the machine.
Good
So
job. Yeah.
his first role as Mario was
Is
unpaid
this one of
and
those, like,
uncredited.
cases where exposure, you won't get paid, but where you'll get exposure, maybe paid off because he became the voice of Mario after doing
Yeah,
that?
I mean, I guess, right? Like, kinda.
Kids, never take money. Always take money. Don't take exposure or credit. Take the money. Take the
Never take
cash.
exposure. But, yeah, so I mean, that was the first time that the broader public would have gotten a chance to hear Mario's voice. And then, like you said, right? It was 2 years later where it was his first video game appearance as Mario was in the 1994 CD version of Mario Teaches Typing. And then he was
Me, I was stuck with
formerly
Mavis Beacon. Did you have the Mario teachers typing?
No, I
Mavis Beacon was
wish.
teaching me to type.
Yeah, I was learning from Mavis Beacon, come on. Give me Mario. I would have actually remembered how to type. But, uh, after that, he formally debuted in the 1995 release of Mario's Game Gallery, where he had full dialogue, at that point. There was extended periods of time where he was speaking to the player. And funny enough, we actually got from the Discord, Team Linux wrote in and said, I played this as a child. And like I had never really been, I was not familiar with this one. I mean, like, I may have heard of it or something, but like, I certainly didn't recognize it. And like, it's the most I feel like I've ever heard Mario talk at once, you
Yeah,
know?
I had never seen this game, and like it's basically a precursor to Clubhouse games, I guess. You got checkers, backgammon, go fish, dominoes, and Yahtzee in there, and Mario's just like playing them with you. It's very strange game. Back in that era where Nintendo wasn't afraid to license out their characters. We had these PC games, and we also had the like Philips CDI stuff. It's kind
I
of
wanna
crazy to see
I
it there.
I kinda wanna get this working. Like, I'm watching it right now, and it's like a chess game with Mario, and he talks to you the whole time. It's like, this is
Oh,
incredible.
this is gonna be easy to get working in DOSBox. Yeah.
Re-release this game, gang. Come on.
I don't think there's any way this is ever, ever, ever getting re-released.
But then, of course, right, we get to the main event, 1996. The world at large is exposed to Charles' work through Super Mario 64, and the story of how that happened goes all the way back to those 1991, Mert Mario in real time presentations, because during that era, right, while they were working on trade shows, he became friendly with none other than Shigeru Miyamoto, of course, right, Mario's dad, and they ended up, becoming friendly. They became acquainted. And when it came time to bring, Mario to 3D and get a voice and everything, he wanted to hire a professional voice actor. And he asked Nintendo to reach out to Martinet and ask him if he would be interested in voicing Mario for the game. And Charles said he was not expecting to get this call and that he immediately made the trip from Sausalito to Bad Animal Studio in Seattle, which is where he went and recorded the game. And, like I said before, the almost the entire thing was unscripted. He was given examples of what the team in Japan was looking for. So, like, he had, like, a very general kind of, rough idea, but there was a ton of time spent for improvisation. So, a lot of like I said, a lot of Mario's signature catchphrases, a lot of the most, like, memorable dialogue in that game are things that he came up with. Like, one of the anecdotes I was reading about was they were talking about, like, the sleep animation and that they were talking about, like, what would happen when Mario's idle, like, like, what should happen? And it was Charles' idea that he would dream of spaghetti. And, that's like that whole bit of the, spaghetti, linguini, like, that was just a bit he came up with while they were there riffing? And it's like,
I
again,
love it.
so much of that is, like, what you think of when you think of Mario.
Yeah. Does he do
Crazy.
that in any other game? I don't think he does. He just, like, chills
No,
out.
I don't think so.
It's really crazy. I'm sure there's, like, a huge set of rules and restrictions around what Mario can do, and they've, like, honed it in specifically down to whatever, you know? Like, I know you're a big Simpsons guy now, and you've probably watched some of the same YouTube videos I did, like, years ago. I distinctly remember watching one where it's like, "We've refined what the Simpsons are. They can't have spiky teeth, they can't have this, they can't have that.
Yeah,
Can
yeah,
never
there's
have
like a
them, like,
Bible,
face on and stuff."
design
Yeah,
Bible kinda thing, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's, like, so funny to think about, like, how recently they were doing things that feel weird as fuck now, like, there's that obviously that image that everybody always shares of Mario with the tribal tattoo, and it's like,
Yeah!
"Fuck,"
What?
like
And then, like, Mario has nipples, and then he doesn't have nipples, and then,
yeah.
like, they've changed his textures every now and again. But
Mario is what you need him to be, He's one of those
yeah.
characters, and Eh, like, I was about to start this as a joke, but now it's actually just gonna be a serious thing that I'm gonna say. He's one of those characters, like, it's the same reason that I think Batman is so popular, is because it's like, you just put him in any situation, and it kind of works, right? No matter what it
Like, "Oh,
is.
you're going go-karting?
Yeah,
Today, you're gonna be cooking up food for the princess in Chef."
today, you're Donkey Kong's captor, now you're friends,
Yeah.
like,
Now you're
whatever.
working with, Bowser Jr. to try and save Bowser for the first time.
He's a baker, a candlestick
Yeah.
maker.
Well, I was looking up some of the Mert stuff when you mentioned it, because I didn't realize the name. I'd heard about it, and have you seen Shigeru Miyamoto with the Mario mascot over on the Mario wiki? And, like, how truly terrifying the
No,
Mario mascot is. I'll
no, send
send
it
you a
to me.
pic
Send it to me
I'll
so I can
send
pull
you
it
a
up.
picture I'll send you a picture here, and I'll
You
send
know,
it
was
to you.
another thing that I found, during my search that I thought was funny, while you're sending me this so I can pull it up, is, apparently there was an interview in 2009 where he told, that gaming site that he had tried to voice Link in Ocarina of Time, and Miyamoto told him, that Link doesn't have a voice. He's like, "No, no, no, we're not doing that." It's like, "Oh, okay, shoot." But he's got the grunts. They coulda let Charles do the grunts.
I mean, Charles does a couple of grunts for Mario, you know, the
Oh,
"Oof."
oh god, this is so creepy.
Like, what is that?
Oh
It's
my god, hold on, I gotta
horrendous.
pull this up.
Can you imagine if, like, this is what Mario looked like when you go to the Magic Kingdom at
I
Super
would
Mario
I
World?
would love that, actually. This is
I'd
like
be like,
this
"What on
dude, like,
earth?"
this reminds me of what it like, you look at, like, pictures from, like, Disney World from when it opened, and, like, Mickey Mouse similarly looks like it's like, "Oh, this is kinda horrifying, isn't it?" Like
It's just awful, and, like, the Mert on the screen behind him and how just bizarre it is. It's
Yeah,
like an
but back in
off-brand
1991,
Mario.
you would've been like, "Holy crap. This is the height
Yeah,
of
you would have been. You'd be like,
technology."
"Whoa, he's speaking to me in real time. I can have a conversation with him." Now I talk to, like, a can in my living room and tell her to turn the lights off, and she does it for me, and I'm just, like, not amazed by that in
You don't even care. I know.
any
You
stretch.
have a
No.
robot assistant. You don't even give a shit.
Yeah, it's crazy how
We're
the
so
technology
devoid of
comes on.
joy. But, so, I wanted to talk a little bit about the history there, but let's take it back to the story at hand as to, like, what's going on here. right?
Mm.
Because I think folks understandably have questions, right? So we read about 90% of Nintendo's statement. Charles, after it was posted, he quote tweeted it and said, "My new adventure begins. You are all number one in my heart. Hashtag woohoo." So, Charles, he's out there. He's still visible, right? Like, we know that we're getting this video at some point in the future.
Strange that the video wasn't posted with it. I wonder why they felt the need to break the news now. I know that they spoke to IGN and said that Mario Wonder's the reason why that this news is coming out now and that Charles is not involved in that game.
So here's specifically what happened, right? Both IGN and Eurogamer reached out to Nintendo for comment on Super Mario Wonder, and they were both provided with the same statement. They were told, while Charles is not involved in the game, we're excited to honor his legacy and contributions, including looking ahead to what he'll be doing as a Mario ambassador. Character voice actors, plural, I want to point out, for Mario and or Luigi in New Super Mario Bros. Wonder will be credited in the game credits, so please wait for the game to be released. So I take this in two ways. One, it's a PR statement, and Nintendo PR statements you should always take with a grain of salt because they often say things that are patently not true, or they say things that are like vaguely not true to like throw off the scent. So like when they say voice actors for Mario and or Luigi, right? That feels vague. It's like, are you saying that there's going to be a different actor for both of them? Are you intentionally making it vague so that we don't know? We'll see. I'm kind of
Or it could just be that the PR person doesn't really know, and it's just like,
also
hey,
possible.
can you deal with this question? Yeah, we'll kind of let them know that they're going to be credited.
And I'm of two minds, right? I think either what's happening here is they announced this now to get out in front of it because they knew that it was going to be a story, right? Like, no matter what, whether it's on good terms, whether it's on bad terms, like any iteration of Charles Martinet is no longer going to be the voice of Mario was going to be a news story, right? And potentially a controversial one. And the idea that they don't want the first time that you hear that news to be in the context of you seeing the game again or hearing the new voice for the first time or whatever, that's probably why, right? They probably wanted to get out in front of it. And my question is, why isn't the video ready right now? And I think there's a good chance that it's because they're planning on doing that as maybe either part of a direct around that game later, or maybe timed around a direct where we get a reveal of the new voice of Mario, and you have kind of like this video where Charles passes the torch, and he gets
And it's not a
thanked
big
and
shock. Is that why they kind of do the soft announcement now? And
yeah.
it's so it's not a shock because I don't know why. If this is a positive thing, and it seems to be what Charles wants. It seems to be that he wants to kind of step back, and he's excited about his new role from what he's tweeted. And he's also 67, so like he wasn't going to be doing Mario forever.
So I want to touch on that, right? Because I have a couple comments here from the Discord that I think framed a conversation we had over there that again, I think it just speaks to the love that people have for Charles's work and how passionate they are about his performance, that the initial reaction is like, "Whoa, like what's going on? Like is this, and I think Left Eye Lazy from the Discord had a couple comments that I think sum up why people might think that pretty well, right? So, Left Eye Lazy over in the Discord wrote in just like you can and said, "Let him ride into the sun with his dream job. I don't understand the need to move past perfection." And I replied to that and I said, you know, it's the guy's 67 years old, right? There, I think, are a couple explanations for this happening that are not uh malicious in any way, right? And it's not him being pushed out. It could just be his age, right? Because 67 years old, he could just be ready to slow down. He might want to retire. He might want to work less, and that's reasonable. I think the other,
Especially with the pace of Mario games, right? The number they put
yeah,
out. It's not just like he's doing the mainline Mario games. He was doing all the stuff on the side, presumably a lot of the stuff for the theme parks. He had a role in the movie. Like, there's a lot of stuff for him to do as Mario, and also as the face. He's also going around to all these events. So he's doing not only his new role as like the Mario ambassador, where he's doing that one side, but he's also doing all the voice acting on top of that. And that's probably really exhausting for him.
Yeah, and again, at 67, maybe he's just ready to be done. He's been doing this job for 31 years. I think the other potentially less fun answer is that his voice is aging and maybe he's starting to struggle to maintain the standard that he's set over 31 years. You brought up The Simpsons earlier. If you want to look at an example of how this happens, go right now and Google Marge Simpson voice comparison and look at how
Mhm.
Julie Canver, and again, an incredibly talented voice actress, right? No disrespect to Julie. Um, the voice, she can't do it anymore, right? She can't do that low gravelly voice that
Homie.
yeah, she can't hit those anymore. So she sounds different now. And she's not the only character like that, right? It happens. So that could be it too, is that like maybe they're trying to get ahead of it of like, look, we don't want to get to a point where people are like, Charles is sounding old or Mario sounds different, or again, not to be morbid, but he could die. And then instead of it being a thing that we planned for, and there was this nice celebration of his 31-year career and a passing of the torch, and everybody gets to meet the new guy, and Charles gets to hang around for a couple of years, like, then instead it's this tragic thing that just happens and they have to react to it. And it's like, that's super morbid. I don't want to talk that way, but like businesses think about things this way because they have to, right? So, like, the idea that, okay, we just had this movie. We've established a new standard of these characters talking more, right? More
Mhm.
completely in more full sentences. And they all have very different voices. Maybe we want to bring in a new batch of voice actors and have a new actress for Peach and a new actor for Mario and a different actor for Luigi and
I mean,
a
Peach
different
gets a new actress all the time by the sounds of it,
sure.
she's constantly changing.
And, like, you know what I mean? Like, but, like, bring in a new cast and be like, "These are the new standards, and these are the people that are gonna voice these characters for the next 30 years," right? Like, that has to happen at some point, and, like, what better time than now, right? Where Mario is, like, more relevant in the conversation than he's ever been. We're getting a brand new 2D Mario that can break the seal so that when the next 3D Mario comes, it's not a surprise, like,
Mhm.
it just I guess maybe they've just decided that this is the time, right? And then I think Left Eye Lazy had a reply to that that I think is a really interesting one, and it ties back to this video, right? Where he said, "I'd understand that if there were joint statements and we got to hear slash read his voice on it, but so soon after the movie made a billion, where he was already sidelined, it just feels bad." And then in quotes and other characters unquote too. Why not allow him to play other characters that fit more for his changing voice? And that's that I guess comes down to whether or not this is his decision. Did he come to Nintendo and be like, I'm ready to step back? Or did Nintendo come to him and be like, look, Charles, you're getting up there. We got to start thinking about what's coming next. And then they agreed on this Mario ambassador role and everything. I don't know. It really could go either way. And I think, you know, I mean,
I kinda
ultimately,
think if there was any animosity here, I think it would have been clear,
yeah, he
and
wouldn't be sticking around.
I don't think he'd be appearing in a video with Shigeru Miyamoto if he wasn't happy about it. I don't think he would move into the Mario ambassador role if that wasn't what he
Yeah,
wanted
I
to
agree.
do. I think he's probably just ready to take a step back, and I think he was probably okay with the Mario movie. He didn't seem to make any kind of statement about it or anything like that. He had a role in the movie and he seemed happy enough with it, and we let Hollywood be Hollywood in that regard.
And I don't know if you saw this making the rounds. I really appreciated it. Once I kind of put two and two together. But I saw it from at Dynamo Super X on Twitter, who said somebody told
Super
me
X on X.
Super X on X. Yeah, I don't call
Yeah.
it that, and I refuse. And you can call me old or a boomer or whatever. I'm not doing it. I'm not calling it. I'm not calling it that, and that's where we're gonna leave it. Uh, so in his tweet, he said somebody. I should say they. They don't seem to have their pronouns in their bio. Someone told me Charles Martinet's last role was Papa Mario, Mario and Luigi's father from the Mario movie, and his last line was, "These are my boys." What an iconic way to go out. And I was gonna show the clip for a second. I flashed it. I hope that that didn't get us flagged. I forgot that they're real bullies about that. That's
They
funny.
are real bullies about it, yeah.
Well, he says, "These are my boys." So hopefully you heard it or you didn't. I don't know. But anyway, I thought that was nice. You know, that it's a poetic way to go out if this is the last role he has associated with Mario, right? And he voiced Giuseppe, which was like the Jumpman stand-in character. So it's like,
Which I think is cool, yeah, I guess, like, his throwback to it, yeah.
got his nod. Yeah. So, I wish Charles all the best. I hope that this is on his terms and he's happy with the situation. Because obviously beloved, right? Truly beloved. We got a couple more things to talk about here. So, we got another question here. This one comes from Snackigo, one of our Patreon producers, who posited if something more sinister could be going on and asked, what's more likely? Nintendo uses old pre recordings or uses AI tech to keep replicating Martinet's voice? Or do they hire someone brand new to voice Mario in the case they want the characters to speak more? Yeah, I don't think
Someone
that's
brand
gonna
new.
happen. Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
think they
definitely
get
gonna be
someone brand new. I think we're probably and maybe the statement that they gave to IGN and Eurogamer with the voice actors, maybe Charles does get some credit there for his previous work, and they've maybe used some sound clips that they already had, the ones that you know about, the Wahoos or whatever. But I do think they're probably just gonna get voice actors in. Why would you bother? I don't see the point in investing
Yeah,
time and
I
and
think
money into AI. They don't seem like that kind of company that would do
no,
something shady like that
no,
anyway.
I don't think they would. And um I think that that is a question and like a concern that's bred by recency bias, like because it's just a thing we're talking about right now, and it's a thing that like that's a huge reason that we have the SAG strike going on right now,
Mm,
right? Like it's on everybody's minds. Like I get why you would ask that question. I just don't think that that's where we're at. I don't think that AI is advanced enough to really like be used in a major commercial product like that. And I think even if it was, I don't think Nintendo would be interested in doing that for the sake of bad press. Because again, right? They in the statement they say that like Charles is stepping back from voicing the characters, right? Like they talk about the new actors being credited. Like it doesn't sound like it's like he's stepping back and we're gonna keep using his voice. It's more like Charles will no longer voice Mario. This is what's happening. So whether or not he's recording new dialogue, if they were using his voice or AI was replicating his voice, he would still be voicing Mario. And the
yeah.
statement is very much he is no longer voicing Mario. So I think I wouldn't be too concerned. Yeah.
No, and yeah, it wasn't something that I thought of. I think my assumption was that they were just going to get someone new in. I didn't expect it to start so soon. I kind of thought that Mario Wonder would have been his last role, and moving forward, it was going to be someone new. But it sounds like that they've made this decision, and they kind of voiced that game prior to this anyway.
Yeah.
And so the last role presumably is Mario and Luigi's dad in the movie. Unless something else comes out after the fact, you know? He
Yeah,
might
which
have done the
like
voice for Mario RPG, for example, or something, you know?
totally. Yeah, something like that could totally be the case. And like that had dialogue or had SF, so like they could be wanting to emulate the old sound. So who knows? But yeah, it's seemingly that's going to be the last role. If not, that there's already something in the works. But it's interesting to think about it in the context of like that new Peach game that they announced too, where it's like, is that you know like is it everything moving forward, or are there going to be a couple more projects that trickle out, like with like Kevin Conroy, right when he passed, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh well, his last performance is in Suicide Squad. He was in this thing that came out afterwards. Like, you get a couple more of them that straggle out, but I feel like if they're telling us that Wonder,
Is it? I think that
I feel like
probably is
that's it
it,
then,
yeah.
right? You got to imagine. So I mean, I guess that means that what Bowser's Fury would be the last new game that he was in,
And that maybe must maybe Mario
sports game.
Golf?
Yeah, That might be
Or
right.
is Luigi's Mansion 3 because he's in that as well.
Hmm.
It looks like WarioWare no, Mario Rabbids Spark of Hope is the last one. That was the last one.
Ah, okay. Huh,
Prior to
that's
that, it
pretty
was
cool.
Mario Strikers and WarioWare.
Not a terrible one to go out on.
So, presumably, he's not gonna be in the new WarioWare game that's coming out this year either. That'll be a new voice for Wario.
Because that could have been done a while ago.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I don't know. We'll find
It's
that
like
out,
people
I
probably don't
guess.
care about that as much, right? Like it's.
Yeah. Yeah, because he is the voice of Mario, but I care. I feel sorry
Yeah,
for
not no,
Wario.
not that it doesn't matter, but it's like Mario's voice is changing is a way bigger headline than Wario's voice is changing, right? Luigi's voice is changing. Okay,
Mhm.
sure. Not like every person in the world knows what Mario's voice sounds like, like it's a little different. So here's my question for you, Steve. We're getting somebody new in, right? Are they emulating what Charles does, or is Mario getting a new voice?
It's gonna be an emulation. I think it's
You
gonna
think?
be yeah, I think it's gonna be someone else, doing that same voice. In the same way that they did for Bayonetta, right? You know, Bayonetta sounds like Bayonetta. We got a voice actor in who was able
Yeah.
to closely replicate what the original voice actor did.
It's
Then we're
just
probably
like
gonna get the same thing here. And I
yeah.
think there will be nuances and differences. I think for this game, specifically for Mario Wonder, I think it's very much gonna be we wanna keep it as close to Charles's performance as possible. And maybe moving forwards,
See,
they
that I don't
expand and
think.
they give more creative, like,
I
embellishments.
don't think. I think it's either gonna be I think when we hear the new voice, it's gonna be this is what the new voice is. And I think
Haven't
it's
we
either
already
gonna
heard
be
it though? Like, haven't we heard things in the trailer for Mario Wonder? And I don't think anyone realized.
yeah, but like how much did we actually hear? Like, and it's like, was that new or was that
And that's
repurposed?
what I'm saying, like, could that be the voice actors is Charles and someone else? Because Charles is doing the original things that we know, and then, someone else is doing
Yeah, but
the
it
new
could
stuff.
just as easily be that they used Charles for the trailer.
Would you really go out of your way to do that? To record additional voice clips with Charles
I
just to
mean,
cover the
like
fact that
to answer your question, yes, you would, right? Like, and it's anecdotal because this is a totally different company, but like Marvel does that. They totally like edit fake scenes in or put real scenes from the movie and different characters are in it or they're in different, like
I just don't think anyone was looking at it closely enough to go, "Hey, that doesn't sound like Charles." Even if the voice clips were
yeah.
different, I don't think anyone was even thinking about it. We were just looking
Yeah,
at it and
you're
going, "Whoa,
probably
shit!
right.
What? Mario's an elephant now. This is so
My
cool."
point is more that just because it even if it was Charles or it is a sound alike in that doesn't necessarily mean that's what it sounds like in the game. And like I think you're probably right that it will be like somewhat of a sound alike, but I guess it's like I don't know, it's interesting because like they didn't do that for the movie and you got to imagine that
No,
part of the motivation for changing it now is to be like Mario talks now.
I don't think that is part of the motivation.
You don't think so?
I think if this was, say, 10 years ago and Charles wasn't in his 60s and he was still very happy, like, you know, traveling the world and doing the games and doing the voice acting and doing everything that he was doing, I don't think they would have changed the games. I think it would have just been like, yeah, in the movies it's Chris Pratt and he doesn't really talk all that much, so it's not that egregious. And in the video games, it's Charles that you've come to know and love since whenever Mario Typing or Mert or Mario 64 or wherever you
Yeah,
jumped
it's like
on.
it's not that I necessarily think that they're gonna try to make him sound like consistent with Chris Pratt as much as it is that like I think that Mario is gonna start talking more. I do. I wouldn't be surprised if the next Mario 3D Mario game, like the successor to Odyssey, has voice acting and Mario talks. I wouldn't be
Mm,
surprised by that.
quite possibly. I mean, we've seen that precedent with Zelda, and they
Well, and
introduced
again,
voice
right? We
acting
have
in
a
Breath
whole
of the
movie
Wild.
where Mario talks for an hour and a half now. It's like it's not like this weird thing of like we talked about that before the movie. It's like, oh, like is he going to do the voice for an hour and a half? Like, how do you do that? It's like, well, they did it, and it's a thing now. And now it's like it's interesting because like like you talked about, right? Like at the rip. Charles has been Mario's voice for 31 years, and for people our age or older or a little bit younger, it's like that's Mario's voice. That's what Mario's always sounded like. This is how he talks. Yeah, but think of all the little kids that just saw the Mario movie and like that's their touchstone for how Mario talks now. It's like Mario has a voice and he talks
Hmm.
in full sentences. And why when I play the games, why is he only going yippee wahoo? Like why doesn't he talk?
Yeah, but like that's the same as Pokemon, right? I watch the Pokemon cartoons and they're talking and there's this whole thing, and then I play the game and he's not saying a
They
word.
have
Or
dialogue though.
I watched Detective Pikachu and Ryan Reynolds sounded like, Pikachu sounded like Ryan Reynolds. Now I play the game and he sounds like Danny
I
DeVito.
don't think
It's
that's
like,
the same thing. I think it's a different thing to ask a child to like extend their imagination to be like, oh, like on the cartoon they have voices, but in the game they don't. But I can read and I can project voice. Like you can extend it a little bit and close the gap. And with the Detective Pikachu thing, that's like a totally different thing, right? Where it's like, you know, that's a thing kids are exposed to in animation all the time. Characters' voices change, right? Like there have been how many voices of Mickey Mouse, right? But like,
mhm.
and yeah, the
He always
original,
sounds similar though. Like he very much always sounds similar, and
yeah,
that's the thing. What they're gonna I kind of think that's the route they're going down. I think they see Mario
but
as a character on the same level of
you're
Mickey
right.
Mouse.
But let me finish this point though, right? You go back and you listen to the OG Mickey Mouse shorts, right, where Walt Disney is doing the voice, and it's super high and squeaky, and like it's oh, okay, boys and girls. Like it's harder to actually make out
Mhm.
because it wasn't important for cartoon characters to talk then, right? Like he's talking literally, right? But it's like you think Steamboat Willie, the big thing is the whistle, right? And then while he's running around and fighting and stuff, he's like muttering to himself or whatever, but it's not dialogue. It's not like what are your hopes and dreams, Mario, right? Like and as cartoons moved away from like being more focused on animation and slapstick and physical comedy and they became more about dialogue. Yeah, like Mickey Mouse's voice still sounds similar, but like the voice he had in the 80s to now is different than the voice he had from like the 30s to the 50s, right? Or and like it evolved. And it's weird if you're somebody who has that context, but to a kid, they don't know. Like it doesn't matter, right? Like they don't
Yeah.
think about things the same way because when you're a kid, you're just more open to shit, right? Like I as a kid, right? Like I remember and super anecdotal, but there were I think four different voice actors who voiced the character of Arnold on Hey Arnold, right? And like I could recognize that his voice was different in different seasons.
You didn't care though. You just didn't care. It was
And I
just you're
wasn't
looking at the
thinking
same
about it like
character. Yeah.
that. It wasn't like
But
they
that's
changed
how I
his
kind of
voice.
feel
What
like.
the it's like,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I think it's a different thing. I think when I'm watching a movie, I expect the character to talk. I expect there to be dialogue. I think when I'm running around, I'm jumping on platforms, or I'm racing around a racetrack, or I'm playing soccer, or I'm, you know, um, typing on a computer screen. I don't necessarily expect Mario to talk as much, and maybe that's just because I'm used to that.
yeah, you are. And that's the thing is, I think it would be weird as a kid for you to go from I just watched the Mario movie to now I'm playing Mario Odyssey and every character but Mario talks. Why?
They
And like,
don't all talk though, not really.
I mean, Cappy talks. Cappy has full on conversations with you, or Mario doesn't respond. And like, I don't know that that's like the end all be all because in the same breath, like kids don't, they accept things, right? Like they're not as they don't apply as much scrutiny to this kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
I
like,
mean, maybe you're right. I mean, I don't know. I kind of think it's a different thing. I don't think we're going to think that the Steve in Minecraft should be talking after I watch Pedro Pascal play him in the Minecraft movie. I kind of think that
yeah, that's
it's
different
a
though because he's
different
not
thing.
really a character though, right? Like he's an NPC. Like you control him. He's literally like he's iconography wise recognizable, but he's not a character. Mario's a character. Mario is a guy. He has a family. You know them. He has hobbies. He has a girlfriend, kind of. Like he's a character
But
that like
you
you can
don't think
say.
that
I can
Charles could
say
have done that? You don't think Charles could have voiced that because
I'm
he
not.
was doing the Mert
That's not
stuff,
what I'm
right?
saying.
Like,
I'm not making the point that he couldn't. my point is more that that is generally not how Mario was utilized previously, right? Like Charles's performance is more like loose, and it is like, it feels dated in some ways in terms of like the way dialogue is used for Mario versus other like leading characters. Most characters in games with stories have dialogue. Nintendo is kind of old school in that way. And I'm not saying that it's good or bad or this or that or that Charles couldn't do this or that, but I could see them being like, look, we just put out this movie, right? $1 billion success. We know now we're going to make at least a trilogy of these fucking things. And I already see it. I already see kids on TikTok or out when I'm walking around or whatever, and they have Mario toys. They're wearing Mario shirts. Mario is going to have a cultural renaissance right now. This is probably going to be the most relevant Mario is to the mass culture since he had a voice in the first place, right? The 90s and the peak of Mario Mania. And I think that there are kids that are going to grow up with a different understanding of what Mario is than our understanding of Mario. And I don't think it needs to be one to one. That's not even what I'm saying. It's just that, like, the idea that they're like, look, now after this movie, this is a whole new way that people know Mario. And moving forward, we want to have a cast of, 5 or 6 voice actors, and this person voices Toad, and this person voices Mario, and this is the new voice, and this voice, and for the next 30 years, this is going to be what kids think of when they hear Mario. And that does give them and whether or not they want to, it does give them the freedom to be like, look, this is a clean slate. It avoids all those other problems that we talked about of Charles getting older and, aging out of it or, needing to retire or,
Well, and it being one character that voices one actor that voices so many characters, you got
right.
flexibility that they can all sound different. They can all interact with one another in a studio. They can all do those things now.
And similarly, right? If you want to make a Luigi's Mansion game and a Mario game at the same time, Charles is the only one working, right? Like it gives them more flexibility to leverage these characters in different ways and to treat them more like they treat them in the movies, right? And like I don't even mean like literally, right? Like not writing them that way, but like Mario talks. Mario is a leading man. Mario talks. That's the thing. That I mean,
I could see it. I don't think he's gonna be talking throughout. I think if anything, maybe we get cutscenes and he talks in the cutscenes in the same way that we had cutscenes in Odyssey.
or
I don't
Sunshine.
think he's I
Sunshine
don't
has
think he's
voiced cutscenes, right?
It does, yeah, yeah. I don't think he's gonna be, chatting all the time, though. I think we're gonna have the same thing we had at the moment in Odyssey when he talks to people. It's just like Pauline going, "Mhm, yeah, ah." Like, I kinda think they're gonna continue with that, and I think we've seen that they continued with that in Tears of the Kingdom. That seems to be their strategy, that we have a little bit of
But
voice
even that,
acting and
imagine
localization.
imagine it had that level of cutscenes and Mario had dialogue in them. I think I
Yeah,
don't
and
think
I
that's
think that's
crazy.
great. That would be great. But I don't think we needed Charles to leave for that. I get that's not your
No,
point, but
I think
I
it's
think
just the
Charles could
timing
have
of it
done it. It's a good
all
time for it, yeah.
just makes sense. Yeah, like I don't think it's like
Especially with a new console coming out as well, like it can be a point of right, here's a generational refresh. We've
yeah,
got a new cast. It seems like maybe the Princess Peach game is probably going to be a good time
and I mean,
to try that and experiment with that.
I think this also just speaks to generally where Nintendo's at as a company, right? Like Left Eye Lazy in the Discord made a comment about like it's kind of sad to think that like at some point none of the original creators are going to be working on these games anymore, and like that's fast approaching, and it's sad to say, but like Miyamoto is also nearing 70 or in his 70s. I can't quite remember his age, but
Yeah.
he's not a young guy anymore. And
Well, and he's seemingly a little bit more hands off with the games now. He's been involved with the movie. He's been involved with the theme parks. I think
that's
he's
the
kind
thing
of
is
getting.
he's a
He seems
creative
like
fellow
he's
now.
getting his
Like he's
legacy up and ready and finishing it.
yeah,
And I think then he's probably going to be like, right, I'm done. I've made Mario. I saw my vision of what I wanted him to be all along, which was one of these like cartoon characters.
yeah.
And now he is that. He's on the big screen, and he's also got his own theme park, and he's in these like really, really popular games. And I think then Miyamoto can probably retire in the same way. Maybe he moves on to be a Mario ambassador with
Yeah,
me
and I mean,
with Charles.
I also think it's like it kind of speaks to the way that like and again, I'm an American. Anything that I say about Japanese culture, take with a grain of salt. My understanding of Japanese work culture is that this is kind of a thing they do when people get old. Like, they don't make people retire or anything like that. Like, and a lot of people work well into their elder years, but as you age, you start taking on roles that are like more removed like that and that are more like, you know, you're a fellow, you're there, you're offering advice. Like, it's more like, "Hey, like, you've done the legwork you needed to do. Let's just leverage the experience and wisdom that you have," and, and, like, that's kinda been Miyamoto's thing. Like, when's the last time he was a lead developer on a game, right? Mario Run? I don't know how involved he was in Pikmin 4. I know that's always been his baby, so maybe there's that one too, but, yeah, I think you're right, and, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they're having the same attitude with Charles, where they're like, "Hey, Charles, you're almost 70 years old. Like, why don't you relax? Why don't you take a beat?" Right?
Yeah, the last game he directed was Mario Run. He was a general producer on games and a creative director at the park. Since then, prior to that, it was Star Fox Zero and Mario Maker, the original Mario Maker.
There you go. So, now, uh okay, hold on. I'm jumping through my notes here because we've touched on a lot of the questions I wanted to ask you here. Okay. So, let me try to pin you down on this one, Steve. Do you
Okay.
think multiple actors? Do you think Mario and Luigi will be different actors? I think they will be.
Um, no, not for Mario Wonder. I don't necessarily think it needs to be. But actually, yeah, I do think it will be. I think moving forwards, they're going to want it to be separate people. I think if they do more voice acting, they're going to want it to be separate people. So yeah, it makes sense. But I
Do,
also, as I said, I think the statement with multiple actors could also mean that Charles is in the game, and they're using some of his dialogue from previous games, and they want to credit that. And there's also a new person involved to move forwards.
it could be, yeah. It does say Charles is not involved in the game. It says we're excited to honor his legacy and contributions, but I wonder if that means broadly as a company and not in the context of Mario Wonder, because
Quite possibly, yeah.
they say specifically Charles is not involved in the game. We're excited to honor his legacy and contributions, including looking ahead to what he'll be doing as a Mario ambassador.
I hope he has a really big thank you at the end of the game and like a
Thank you
big
so
credit.
much for playing my game. That would be good. That'd be a good way to send him off. All right,
What do you think?
so
You think there's gonna be multiple?
I do, yeah, and I think it just plays into my theory of them wanting to be like Mario and Luigi are different characters, they have different voices. Chris Pratt and Charlie Day have totally different voices, totally different
They have very
deliveries.
different personalities from how I envisaged them in the games, though. Like Luigi had a very different personality to how I saw him portrayed in the video games.
And that's another thing because it's like I wouldn't say it's very different than how I think of him. It was just like I thought it was the same but caffeinated. Right? Like the way
Mm.
that Charlie Day generally plays that kind of character, like, kind of crazy, the wild card, right? Like that's what you think
Yeah,
of
but
when you
I
think.
see Luigi as like anxious and timid and shy
Yeah.
and like, you know,
And like he was those things though. He was anxious, he was timid, he was
but
like
also hyper as fuck at points.
yeah. And like to me it was like it's manic. There's like a bit of manic anxiety energy that I wouldn't necessarily have attributed to him, but it doesn't feel wrong either, you know?
No, yeah,
Um
watching that movie, I didn't think any of it felt wrong. It all, and we
Toad
discussed it, you
was the
know, when
one
we
I
watched
thought
it.
felt the most different from how I think of Toad, because I
But
think of
he
Toad
was
as
a Toad. I don't think he was
doesn't matter,
the
right?
Toad. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the other question, right? Is like, are they going to try to ape the movie portrayals at all? And not necessarily like in voice 100%, but like in tone and delivery, like, and like, are they
I
going to
don't
be
think so.
international? Are these
Maybe.
folks going to be the voices in every market the way Charles was, or is it
No.
going to?
Not if it's I mean, even in the movie, Chris Pratt wasn't right. Like we saw the
No, exactly.
French version and the
If it's
French
fully
dubbing, it sounded totally
voiced,
different.
it can't
Yeah.
be. And that's one of the advantages of Charles, but I think that speaks to maybe them wanting to go in a different direction, you know?
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see. I'm excited to see that statement with Miyamoto. I think it's probably gonna be a cute video. And I'm also excited to see more about Mario Wonder. I think you're probably right that they go hand in hand on a bit of a Mario Direct.
Yeah, I think so. So we're gonna close this out in a second here, and we'll answer a couple more of those questions because I do want to talk about that direct, and then I guess like what's next for Charles. But before that, let me remind you that this episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of August. Those one-up superstars are, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valence, Earth Visitor, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, aka Asobi, Snackago, Ty the Dude, and Wakahula. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. You all are number one in our hearts. If you want to go and show your support just like they did, make sure you head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you will find links to all the places we are all over the web, our Discord, our email address, our Patreon. However you want to go click on stuff and get involved, that's the place to go and click on stuff and get involved. And 95% of them won't cost you a pretty penny. But if you do want to throw some money our way, patreon.com/flipscreengames. You'll get all kinds of good perks and goodies. You could get the show early. You can help us keep the mics and lights hot. All right, Steve, let's close it out. Now, the video, right? You're
Yeah.
with me. You think we're gonna get it in a direct? Because I think
Yeah,
that's the way
I don't
you
think
do
we've
it.
seen enough on of Mario Wonder yet, and I also think we've got Mario RPG coming up. We've got WarioWare coming up. Why not reveal the new voices of Mario, Luigi, Wario, and have Charles and Shigeru there, and reveal more information on those three games,
Can
or
I
at
can I
least
pitch
on
you?
Mario and RPG.
Can I pitch you on my how my play by play for it?
Yeah,
Because I feel like I see it in my mind's eye how you do it, right? Mario Wonder Direct. We have the direct. We talk about the game. We get our deep dive on Mario Wonder. We answer as many questions as we want to answer. And then they're like, and we have one more thing, right? Like we have a special presentation or a special wrinkle to this video, right? You know how they do their little here's our little
mhm.
sidebar and it's another fucking thing. Cut. We got Miyamoto. We got Charles. They talk. Oh, Charles-san, like, thank you so much for like your incredible dedicated voice of the Martin. We honor Charles. We give him his little, Miyamoto shakes his hand. The fans love him. He says nice stuff to the fans. He thanks them for all the support and for giving him a career and blah 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 blah. It changed my life to be Mario. It's always be the most important thing that I ever did. Being, whatever. Right? We get him his little moment, and then we bring out the new folks, right? And we do kind of like the thing with Miyamoto and the actors from the movie where it's like, this is so and so, and they're gonna be Mario, and this is, we go through that whole thing. Charles, we get a little hug, we like maybe we play like some kind of thing where it's like Mario and it's like the 64 style, and like we get like some, you know, like a sizzle reel of some of Charles' best moments as Mario, right? And then we cut, and then it's here's Mario in the new style, here's the new voice, Mario Wonder, and then we're gonna talk more about Wario and these other games later. See you next year. Thinking it's something like that.
I could see that. I could also see them saying goodbye to Charles, talking about what his new role is going to be. What is a Mario ambassador? Where can you meet Charles? Oh, you can meet him at that play event that's happening in Seattle at Nintendo's
I
what's
gotta
it
go meet
called?
Charles. I've decided. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
you've just got to. Like I
wherever
know
he's
Chewie said that
ambassading.
that he met him and like, I'm just jealous.
Yeah, so Chewy, our own brother in arms, Chewy plays Nintendo, wrote in and said, "I got to meet Charles Martinet at San Diego Comic Con, and he's such a kind man. Literally a perfect job for him. He'll bring lots of joy to the places he visits."
Which is great.
Um,
Like, and I think that's probably something he likes doing as well. Because like, I love his signature with the little Mario mustache in there, you know?
yeah, yeah.
He is Mario, and
He
he
seems
will
like
continue to be.
Yeah, he really reminds me of Miyamoto. Like they like seem like kindred spirits in the whole like you're just like a 75-year-old child, aren't you? Like you're someone who's
Mhm.
dedicated your entire life to just spreading whimsy and like
Which is
I really
great, it's
respect that in an
awesome.
adult
Yeah,
an adult man,
yeah.
especially, like it's great. Was another fun fact I learned about Charles? He was evicted from a house that he'd been living in for like years in I said it. It was wherever he was living. It was like fucking Sarasota or whatever.
Mhm.
And he got evicted in like 2013 or something like that over like he had like a dispute with the landlord, and was homeless for 5 years because he's like, I'm just gonna go run the convention circuit and just live out of hotels while I'm fucking partying as Mario. I was like, what an absolute
I
G.
mean,
Like,
why not if you've got nothing tying you down and you can
right?
do that?
Fuck it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, they're
Yeah.
living that nomad lifestyle before it was
Yeah.
hipster.
Yeah.
That's
I
great.
think him and his partner live in the Netherlands now, I think. For
Nice
them.
country. I love it. Amsterdam, my favorite
Good for him.
city in the world. I think you could be right, Pete, about that direct, but I could also see them not crediting the actors in any way whatsoever, other than in the credits of the game,
No,
and
I
them
you
wanting to
think? I feel like
anonymize them.
I guess that could be true, and that you don't
Because we
want to.
didn't see it for Zelda. It wasn't like, and here's the voice of Zelda. Let's
It's
have
not the
her
same
in the
though, right? Because it's
presentation.
like Zelda doesn't have a voice. Like it
But
wasn't
she
until,
does. She
but she,
does now.
yeah, but now is
And
my
it's been
point.
two different actresses, right? For the two games, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Wasn't the same actor.
Ooh, I that sounds familiar, but like I just
I'm sure I read that, and I'm sure they sound different to my ear, but I could just be wrong. And it's probably likely I'm wrong.
no, it's her, Patricia Somerset.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, no, it's the same. It's the same person. She's been
I
voicing Zelda since Breath of the Wild.
That's good. And as you know, the fact that they were able to keep that secret, and I remember watching her talking about how they wouldn't tell her what it was that she was auditioning for, and it was really secretive, and
That's
they
pretty
only told her
common.
when she'd got the role. How the hell do you do that when you're auditioning Mario?
You don't.
You can't. Like, how do they keep something like this secret? You can't be like, yeah, we're doing a secret role, but we really need. Have you ever played a Mario game? Okay, well, we need it to sound a
We
lot
need
like that.
we need you to sound Italian, but
Like an Italian plumber
a
from
little
Brooklyn
offensive, you know? Like
that you dream about
that's my
spaghetti.
question, Steve. Can I get an Italian American to voice Mario? Because that would be pretty cool.
Was Chris Pratt an Italian American? Is he an Italian American?
No,
Then I think the chances are very slim for you, unfortunately.
it's the only good role model that I had as a young Italian American man, Mario.
There's got to be some good Italian Americans in media, surely.
No, they only let us be mobsters.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's something to aspire to, I guess, for
I
someone.
guess.
Good business practices.
Okay, fair enough. So we're gonna answer one last question from the question block before we wrap this one up. So Andrew Valentine wrote in and said Nintendo announces Mario RPG 2 with full voice acting. You're in charge of casting, unlimited budget. Who do you cast as the
Mm.
man himself? And I'll tell you what, it's a deeply unsexy answer, but it's the same thing I said, I think I said anyway about Chris Pratt. I would not hire somebody who is famous. You know, I
Should be a
would
nobody, yeah.
it should be a
It should be.
nobody. Charles was a nobody before he voiced Mario, right? Like most of the best performances of new characters are not bringing in a voice actor that is already established, you know? I think of like John Marston in Red Dead Redemption. That is that dude's only major voice acting credit. And it's like, that's huge. Like, I think you get somebody who's an unknown and you change their life and you let them define it, right? Like, don't bring in somebody who's already an A-lister, already has a career, and can just, try to just emulate what somebody else has done. Like, unless that's what you want, right? And in that case, I still, you go somebody who's young, who's a good impressionist. Because like you look at like characters like we talked about like Mickey Mouse, how his voice has changed. One character whose voice has never changed, Bugs Bunny, right? So like when you get a new Bugs voice, not never, but rarely, you want to bring in somebody that sounds like Mel Blanc. So like if we're aping Charles, get somebody who's like 20, 30 years old who nails the Mario voice and let them do it.
Okay, what about someone who is 47 years old and he's seemingly in every video game ever, and his name's Troy Baker? Because I really feel like someone like that could probably ape Charleston's voice. You know, he plays Joel, and then he plays fucking Pagan Min in Far Cry, and it's like, okay, maybe. And then he's what, like, is he Ryuji? No, he's someone in Persona 4, isn't
He's
he?
in Persona 4, I think, yeah,
Yeah. Kanji, he plays Kanji in Persona 4. It's just like, you could go, he does anything. He does
he's
everything these
versatile,
days.
no
Yeah.
disrespect to Troy. But that's what I'm saying, like, Troy, come on. He's already on the Mount Rushmore of video game voice actors. He's got his money.
Yeah, I'm
Let
looking
some
at what he's been doing. 2020 was a good year for him, you know? He
Oh,
was in
dude, he stays working. He stays
Oh,
working.
yeah, he was in Elder Scrolls Online, he was in The Last of Us Part 2, he was in Fortnite, the Avengers game, Dirt 5, and also Spider-Man Miles Morales that year,
And
along with a bunch of other stuff, you know?
like a year later, he's in the TV show. He stays working. He's busy. So that's my thing. Hey, let some new kid do it.
That's how I would do it, and I think I
It's
don't
like
think
with
you
Tom
need
Holland,
anyone
right? When they
else.
had him play Spider-Man, he's 19. He was a nobody. You bring in the new kid.
Mhm. Yeah, he'd had some smaller roles, and had done, like, theater work, but, yeah,
Yeah,
it wasn't like he
he
was
wasn't a movie
he
star.
was famous, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Okay. So, any final thoughts on this one, Steve? Any parting words for Charles?
Just a thank you. I think a thank you from everyone. You brought a lot of joy to a lot of people's lives, and an escape for a lot of people. I love going and playing Mario and not having to think about the world, and you can just escape and have a good time and have fun. And it's not just the Mario games, like the Mario platform games. It's going and playing Mario Kart with friends, and it's like all of that stuff. I love it.
Mario Party
And
with your mom.
yeah, exactly. I played so much Mario Party with my family when we were kids. So yeah, it's sad, but I don't think it's like a goodbye. I don't think I feel really really sad about it because it seems like it's what Charles wants to do, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I think that's where I come down on it is like it's hard to be upset when it was such a good run. He voiced the character literally for the entirety of our lives up until now, right? Like, what other person can claim to play a character for 30 years like that? Like, it's
Apparently nobody. They don't have the Guinness World
not in
Record for
video
100
games
games.
anyway,
No.
right? Yeah, and it's like, obviously there are literally other examples, right? Like we talked about The Simpsons and stuff like that, but like when you're in the same company as when the performers you have to compare yourself to, right, are the people that played like Mickey Mouse or Bugs Bunny or Homer Simpson is like, you know, that's pretty
Yeah,
crazy,
or
right?
seemingly the woman that plays Grey's Anatomy, because that show will never fucking end, and I
Yes.
don't understand why.
Didn't Meredith Grey leave the show at some point though?
I no, she's back now. There's like 3 of the
All
original
right.
cast left, and that's it. And like somehow the show's still going after 18 seasons. Will it ever end? Will they
I don't
get to season 31 and
And then
and surpass
her kid will
Charles?
take over or whatever, you know, a Walking Dead situation. But yeah, I I would say I'd just echo your statement, your sentiments there of just, Charles is one of those special performers, right? Like he is somebody who his work has been a part of my life for basically as long as I can remember. And yeah, I mean he left his mark, which I think like as a creative person, as somebody who sets out to work as an actor or a writer or a game developer or a musician, whatever, right? Like all you can hope is that you contribute to something that outlives you, right? Like I think that's the ultimate goal of any creative. And I mean, he did it.
Yeah.
He left his mark and like on literally the most recognizable uh video game character of all time.
I know, it's really cool. And final closing thoughts. If anyone wants to see what Charles's life was before Mario, just go to his website, charlesmartinet.com. It's like a time capsule. It has been untouched. I swear to God, untouched since he got the Mario role. It still talks about the fact that he's a trade show presenter and that his
Oh
repeat
my
clients include
god.
PG&E, Apple, Hewlett Packard. This has never been edited. And
Dude,
you
I
can
went to
email
his
his webmaster.
website and it, like, automatically downloaded a movie file, a .mov, and it says corporate dot it's like, is this, like, his real? It has his
Yeah,
email
yeah, yeah.
address on here.
I know, and check out his resume. It doesn't mention Nintendo at all. It's not there. But I do know that he's 6'3", weighs 185, is blonde/grey, and has beautiful blue eyes.
This is insane. This is insane. Are you kidding me? This is wacky. Like, how are you dropping this on me as I'm trying to end the show? We just spent 20 minutes going through this. He's got like, are you kidding me? This is
I
incredible.
really wanna see some, like I think
Oh,
I need to
oh, if you
watch some
click
of the
on
clips.
voiceover, it does have a picture of Mario.
Oh, and Cat in the Hat. Yeah,
You can't even see the picture of Mario that I'm seeing,
it's crazy,
everybody.
and you'll recognize his voice from Carmen Sandiego, apparently.
He played Watto from Star Wars? No. That must just be an
Charles is the signature voice of Leapfrog Ribbit Ribbit Let's Play. You can hear his voice in over 25 educational games and toys, including The Space Shuttle, National Geographic Animals, and ABC School Bus. I'm really excited about that.
Okay, okay. Alright, it looks like he didn't do the voice in the movie, it was just in a thing, I don't know. Well, anyway, Charles,
Insane. Insane website. Go check it out. Great website.
my favorite thing about it is every time you go back to the homepage, it downloads the movie a second time. It just keeps downloading it.
Oh, it's not done that for me, but I do want to really I think I'm gonna watch some of his trade show stuff and like corporate stuff.
Can
I
you
love the
please save all the
portfolio
videos
page.
that you watch? We gotta turn this into
Yeah, yeah,
something.
I will do,
There's
yes.
something here. There's an idea here. I don't know what it is, but we're gonna figure it out. But yeah, to put a pin in it, Charles, thanks for everything. And enjoy retirement. Or I guess not retirement, but your work as a
And a
Mario
Mario
ambassador.
ambassador.
I'm gonna come and shake your hand wherever you're ambassading. So I'm gonna this is a new goal for me, Steve, for the bucket list. Is I'm gonna shake hands with Charles Martinet. I'm gonna figure
Yeah.
it out.
And tell him how much you love his website.
I will. Yeah. I'll definitely bring up his website if we ever get to meet. I have to ask him about it now.
Yeah, this and like the Space Jam website are like two just
Time
time
capsules.
capsules.
Utter
Just
time
yeah,
capsules.
untouched.
Untouched by time. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us here on another episode of Nintendo Noise. If you want to write in with your favorite memories about Charles Martinet's body of work or about anything we've discussed on this or any other episode of Nintendo Noise, remember, you can hit us up questions at flipscreen.games. You can come and join our Discord where we've got a thread for every one of our shows and the conversations keep on rolling between episodes. If you want to go and write in over there, just like everyone did for our question block this week, we'd love to hear from you. So please, flipscreen.games, head over to the website, go click on some stuff. It doesn't cost you anything and it helps us out a lot. If you do want to go and show your support with a couple of dollaroos, guess what? There's a bunch of stuff you can get over on patreon.com/flipscreengames that will hopefully be well worth your pretty hard-earned pennies. But of course, it is the best way to keep the mics and the lights hot. But if you don't have any money to toss our way, that's cool. Just go watch the shows. Tell people about us. Give us a rating. Lots that you can do for free that helps us out quite a bit. However, you choose to get involved or show your support, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Flip Screen Games podcast. For the crew, oh, no, wait, of Nintendo Noise. I said the wrong podcast. For the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Steve. We'll see you next time.